Right now on Morning News Now, ramping up, the U.S. launching a new round of strikes on Iran overnight. This latest escalation in retaliation for a ballistic missile attack against American troops at a U.S. base in Jordan. The drawn-out war in Iran leading to internal divisions in the Trump administration on a path forward. The latest on the conflict. Todd Blanche's nomination to be the next U.S. Attorney General on hold this morning. Disagreements with GOP senators over written assurances causing the delay, and a contentious hearing with Dr. Anthony Fauci, where he invoked his Fifth Amendment rights on Capitol Hill yesterday regarding COVID's origin. Senators now issuing Fauci a warning.
It's already been scheduled for next week for a vote on contempt of Congress, referral of contempt of Congress. If the vote is affirmative, it will be sent to the Department of Justice, and they will have to make a decision whether to pursue.
We'll break down the back and forth and what comes next. Degree of difficulty. Recent college grads are seeing bumps in the road as they try to start their careers. New data is highlighting the challenges young adults are facing. But what's causing it? We'll tell you later in the hour. And not for your consideration, K-pop supergroup BTS not submitting its music for next year's Grammy Awards. We'll explain the move and bring you the reaction from their army of fans. The size of an army, and that's what they call themselves.
Exactly, and it's sparking quite the conversation about awards. You can kind of see both sides of the issue.
Yeah.
We'll dive in a little bit. Good morning, good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. We're going to begin this hour in the Middle East, where the war with Iran is ramping back up after days of no direct strikes from either side. Overnight, the U.S. military launched a new round of strikes on Iran in retaliation for what they described as a surprise ballistic missile attack against American forces in Jordan on Tuesday.
U.S. Central Command says dozens of targets were struck, including military command centers and drone facilities. The attacks came after President Trump warned the U.S. would be hitting Iran, quote, very hard. NBC News international correspondent Matt Bradley joins us now with the very latest. Matt, good morning. Just what more can you tell us about this latest round of strikes?
Yeah, that's right, Joe. So we heard, as you mentioned, from CENTCOM saying that they were attacking coastal surveillance, defense sites, maritime capabilities, though CENTCOM didn't give a precise number on the targets that were struck. Now, this appears to be attacks that are in retaliation for Iranian attacks against targets throughout the Middle East that had been in retaliation for U.S. and Saudi joint attacks on Iran-backed militant groups in the eastern part of Iraq, also known as the Hashd al-Shaabi, or the Popular Mobilization Forces. But these latest rounds, as you mentioned, they break something of a pause that lasted only for a couple of days after weeks and weeks of successive, basically daily fighting between the U.S. and Iran. And now it looks as though this is expanding the front lines. As I mentioned, Saudi Arabia had participated in those strikes against those Iran-backed groups in Iraq. And now Egypt had confirmed that a drone ignited fires on 2 natural gas vessels in the port of Damietta, though there is no confirmation from the Egyptians on who might have launched those strikes. Jordan also said that it had intercepted a new barrage from Iran. Kuwait said an Iranian strike had hit a building belonging to a Chinese company that killed 1 worker. Now, Iran has already come out and said that the aggressor would be punished today.
Matt, despite this increased fighting, President Trump is continuing to insist that Iran is ready to make a deal. What is Iran saying about that?
Yeah, I mean, we've been hearing this constantly. President Trump saying that even as this conflict is going on, that they were ready to make a deal, that he was backing off in part, as I mentioned, that sort of break that we saw in just the past couple of days, that this was to try to give some oxygen to negotiations that Trump still seems to be optimistic could result in some sort of deal. The Iranians have consistently denied the optimism around some sort of deal. But not only that, they've also consistently denied that there was any real negotiations taking place on any real level that could lead to a resolution of this conflict. Now, we saw the Iranians launching those strikes against targets in Jordan, against U.S. bases. According to analysts, this shows that Iran really is trying to get the upper hand and assert, either to its own political, domestic public, or to the world, especially to the United States, that it had the upper hand and that it was not going to back down, particularly on questions of control over the Strait of Hormuz, that crucial and hotly contested waterway that is, the area that conveys about 20% of the world's oil.
Matt, looking at a potential off-ramp here, sources tell NBC News the president's frustrations with his top national security officials over options to try and end the war. They recently reached a boiling point. What are we learning about these discussions?
Yeah, no, what we're hearing is that President Trump erupted during a meeting last week with some of his top national security officials. He was yelling expletives, and this according to a U.S. official and another person who was familiar with the discussion. Two other people familiar with these White House discussions on the war. They also said that the president has become increasingly frustrated, and this is all despite those public displays of confidence. Neither he nor his top aides have been pleased with what's been going on, according to officials. We have seen the president coming out speaking with Fox News yesterday in an expletive-laden tirade about how he was going to put it to Iran should they continue to launch attacks throughout the region. And we have heard from other reporting, particularly in the Wall Street Journal, that it was top senior officials within the White House who convinced the president not to launch a planned set of attacks against the Iranians, saying basically that the United States was running out of missile defense systems, which are crucial not just for the U.S., but for its allies in the Middle East to deflect these Iranian attacks and counterattacks, but also because it just wouldn't do much good.
Frustrations on display. Matt Bradley. Matt, thank you so much.
Well, in Washington, Todd Blanche's path to becoming Attorney General appears to be in jeopardy.
That's after the Senate Judiciary Committee postponed a vote on Blanche's nomination over disagreements with Republican Senators John Cornyn of Texas and Tom Tillis of North Carolina. The GOP-led committee was scheduled to hold the vote this morning.
NBC News political reporter Megan Brand joins us on this one. Megan, good morning. So why was this vote postponed? What exactly are Cornyn and Tillis concerned about?
Hey, guys, good morning. So the sticking point here is this settlement between President Trump and the IRS. That came after President Trump had sued the IRS over the leak of his tax returns. So in terms of what that settlement entailed, the Justice Department had created this $1.776 billion so-called anti-weaponization fund. Now, the DOJ has since backed off of that. They've said that they're not going to pursue that. But those two senators, Senator Cornyn and Senator Tillis, have said that they want assurances of that in writing. They want that to be formalized. Now, they also want another part of this settlement to be narrowed. Another part of the settlement was that President Trump, his family members, and companies would have some protections from future IRS audits. So they want some of that to be narrowed as well. So in terms of how the senators were talking about this yesterday, Senator Tillis had said that the Justice Department seemed to have agreed and provided assurances in terms of the anti-weaponization fund, but said that he still needs clarification on that audit part of the settlement. And then separately, you have Senator Cornyn, who told reporters yesterday, this was before we heard that the vote was delayed, he told reporters that he hasn't yet seen a single piece of writing that is responsive to what he's requested, guys.
And of course, of note is the fact that Tillis is retiring. Cornyn lost his primary, so they don't have as much to lose if they disagree with the president. How is President Trump reacting to all this? I mean, is this nomination in real jeopardy?
So in terms of the president's reaction, the postponing of the vote took place last night. So we haven't gotten a reaction yet from President Trump about that part of it. But yesterday, the president was asked about Senator Cornyn being hesitant about his support for Todd Blanche. Take a listen to what he had to say.
Well, all I can say is Todd Blanche is outstanding. And I thought it was pretty routine because he's so good. You just wouldn't find a better person. So I don't know, maybe John Cornyn's upset with me because I didn't endorse him.
Now, as you mentioned, neither Senator Cornyn nor Senator Tillis are up for re-election. President Trump had supported Senator Cornyn's primary opponent, Ken Paxton. And so Senator Cornyn now won't be up for re-election, and Senator Tillis had decided not to run for re-election. Now, in terms of whether this nomination is in jeopardy, a Justice Department official had said yesterday that the department had sent Senators Cornyn and Tillis new language, that conversations were still ongoing with the senators to try to resolve their concerns. But right now, we don't have a timeline for when that vote could potentially move forward, guys.
Megan, some other news here. The Federal Reserve, they left interest rates unchanged yesterday. That was expected. But talk us through the decision and what we did learn from new Fed Chair Kevin Warsh when we heard from him.
Yeah, that's right. So this was the 5th time in a row that the Federal Reserve has kept the interest rates steady. But one interesting part of this decision yesterday came from 3 of these policymakers who voted to raise interest rates. This was the first time since 2016 that you had 3 policymakers voting in the same direction on policy related to interest rates. We also heard from Federal Reserve Chair Kevin Warsh yesterday in a press conference where one of the things that he emphasized to reporters is the Fed's goal of getting inflation to that 2% target rate. Now, he also discussed the process of how the members of the Fed were discussing and trying to evaluate their policy. He said that while there were different disagreements and different viewpoints and perspectives, he said that they were all eager to, in his words, roll up their sleeves and have a family fight, guys.
All right, Megan Brand, thank you so much.
Dr. Anthony Fauci is facing a new threat, this one coming from Capitol Hill. Republicans are now looking to hold the longtime public health official in contempt. It's because he invoked his Fifth Amendment right not to answer questions yesterday during a contentious Senate hearing on COVID's origins. NBC News White House correspondent Monica Alba reports from Washington.
On the advice of counsel,
Dr. Anthony Fauci invoking his Fifth Amendment right more than 100 times.
I respectfully decline to answer.
Declining to answer lawmaker questions about his handling of the pandemic, citing what he called GOP Senator Rand Paul's unhinged obsession with prosecuting him.
The sole reason he is calling me before this committee is to get me to say something, anything, that could vindicate his repeated public pledges that I end up, in his words, quote, behind bars, unquote.
Fauci's attorney was removed after he interrupted the hearing to speak. Democrats defending Fauci.
I fear the intent of this hearing is only meant to further a purely partisan agenda.
All of it after Paul published more than 1,100 pages of Fauci's personal diary, including where Fauci gushed about praise he received from celebrities like Bono, Julia Roberts, and Barbra Streisand. Writing, "It is not hyperbole to say that today I am the most famous and talked about person in the country."
You wanted to be on TV. You wanted to be the sun god of science. You could sit for InStyle magazine, but you can't answer questions for the American people.
In one entry, Fauci also wrote about a phone call where he said he successfully convinced New York City's mayor to close schools. Republican senators grilling him over those COVID lockdown measures.
Who the do you think you were for doing that? It is a total disgrace what you did to this country.
Former President Biden pardoned Fauci for any potential offenses during an 11-year period before 2025.
Our thanks to Monica Alba for that report. Senator Paul's committee plans to vote next week on holding Dr. Fauci in contempt of Congress, but it would ultimately be up to the Justice Department on whether to prosecute him.
Let's get you to some weather news now, because it is another day of extremes here in the U.S. So depending on where you are, you could be either drenched or scorching. Upstate New York, it got some of the worst of it yesterday, with more than 11 inches of rain falling in less than 24 hours, flooding rivers and washing away buildings. Meanwhile, in New Jersey, look at this. The storm knocked over a utility pole. It crashed it onto cars, sparking a massive fire. It destroyed this whole row of vehicles.
The storm also disrupted one of the Northeast's busiest rail lines. Amtrak had to cancel service between Albany and New York City because of all the water on the tracks. This summer, it seems like if you're not in a storm, you're in a sauna. More than 69 million people from Florida to California are under heat alerts this morning. Parts of Texas forecasters expect the temperatures to hit the triple digits both today and tomorrow. That could break some Texas-sized records.
That is where we find NBC News correspondent Ryan Chandler. Ryan, good morning. No, it's early, but just how hot is it already? And tell us where there's the most concern.
Savannah, Joe put it well. Storms or saunas. It really is a tale of two summers during this season of extreme weather. Here, the story is that heat. We can already feel that sweltering weather setting in with the sun not even over us in Texas yet. But just listen to some of these extreme temperatures that are forecasted for across the state. Houston, 106 degrees. Here in Dallas, it could get up to 102. Over in West Texas, in Abilene, 101. California, it's even worse. Palm Springs could see a feels like temperature of 115 today. There are tens of millions of people experiencing this. It's not isolated just to one pocket, Savannah. I mean, it's more than 60 million people all the way from California to Florida that are waking up under extreme heat alerts. It's worth remembering that while it may not look dramatic, extreme heat is the most dangerous, deadly form of weather that the average American faces every year. So officials are urging caution as we make our way through this.
No kidding. And let's bring it back to the East Coast. We saw these powerful storms move through the region over the course of a couple days. Tell us more about just the widespread flooding.
Devastating images coming from the Northeast in that powerful system moving from Pennsylvania to Connecticut. Upstate New York got some of the worst of it. Some areas up there saw as many as 10 inches of rain in just 24 hours. We're all too aware of what that can do here in Texas as communities here also continue to recover from extreme flooding we've seen this month. Up in the Northeast, we've seen buildings ripped apart and carried down streets, many people having to rebuild, many having to be rescued by high water rescue teams as they were trapped in their homes. And unfortunately, we also know of a tragedy that we're now learning about in New Jersey, where a 10-year-old boy passed away in the Passaic River, pushing his sister to safety. That boy is being heralded as a hero who could have saved his sister's life while losing his. And unfortunately, we know that another young girl is still missing there, guys.
Oh my gosh, just heartbreaking to hear that, Ryan. Tell us now about the Southeast. I know there's been reports of several tornadoes in Tennessee, also even up to Maryland. How serious was the damage?
Yeah, Savannah, we're also tracking some reports of tornado warnings south of Knoxville, moving across state lines into North Carolina. We're seeing videos of debris being lifted into the air. Some families reporting that they're now having to rebuild their homes there. That cell appears to have moved from that eastern side of Tennessee around Knoxville into North Carolina. Still tracking reports of storm damage coming out of there, but another concerning situation with so many destructive and deadly forms of weather hitting so many Americans.
Oh, absolutely. All right, Ryan Chandler, stay cool. Thank you so much.
Let's take a closer look at what to expect today, from that severe flooding to the extreme heat.
Angie Laskin's tracking it all for us. Hey, Angie, good morning.
Hey, good morning. We are once again dealing with a whole lot of heat across the country, and you can see these heat alerts expansive from across parts of the Southwest to the Southern Plains and all the way to the Gulf Coast. We've got 69 million people under these heat alerts as we gear up for this heat dome, kind of really getting your attention when it comes to temperatures over the next couple of days. Today, 109 in Tucson. We've got high 90s for Albuquerque, 96 in Wichita, but feeling like 104. It'll feel like 106 in Houston this afternoon as well. Even as far north as Green Bay, temperatures topping out into those low 90s. So some late summertime heat still in place even as we get into tomorrow. It actually gets a little hotter in some spots. Phoenix at 115. Lubbock ends up at 101. Oklahoma City topping out at 101. Record highs are going to be likely across much of the Southwest, especially as we get into the weekend. Notice these highs in Los Angeles, 95 degrees. We've got 116 on Saturday in Phoenix. Even across parts of the Rockies, you're going to see temperatures well into the triple digits. Notice Salt Lake City, 105 for the start of your weekend. Meanwhile, better conditions across New England, but we're not fully done with this rain just yet. You can see we've still got some lingering showers across this area. All the flood watches have since expired, so we're not so concerned about that, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's some minor localized flooding in some of these spots as we gear up for a little bit more of this rain in the picture. That flash flood risk does extend across New England, parts of Maine, stretching down to Connecticut. It'll be isolated, but again, we received so much rain over the past couple of days that even another quarter of an inch or so could be problematic for folks. Big picture look otherwise today, it's hot and dry across parts of the West. Plenty of sunshine there. We'll see the heat and humidity, as I mentioned, across the South, and some of those severe storms for parts of the plains. That'll be something you deal with into the afternoon hours. More sunshine, though, from the Great Lakes stretching to parts of the Mid-Atlantic and the Ohio Valley through the day today. Back to you.
All right, Angie, thank you so much. Well, in Europe, they are dealing with these extremes, too. But there's a little good news here. Firefighting crews say they are starting to get a handle on the historic wildfires that have been burning in France's wine country. Get this, it's thanks to help from farmers who live in the area. NBC News international correspondent Raf Sanchez got the chance to go along with one of those crews. Here's his report.
The battle to stamp out the raging wildfires in France is hanging in the balance. After 3 days of intense firefighting, crews here say they've stopped the flames spreading deeper into the iconic Bordeaux wine region. But the threat isn't over. We followed one of those teams deep into the fire zone.
As you drive along here, it is just mile after mile of devastation. You can see this house completely burnt out, charred trees as far as the eye can see.
Along this country road, the situation at first appears under control. But intense heat and strong winds mean that a single glowing ember can, in an instant, turn to flames.
And this is the danger. This fire just came absolutely out of nowhere. It is so dry here. Dry kindling sparked. And now you can see there is this desperate effort to keep it from becoming something bigger. These are basically just pickup trucks with water on the back, doing what they can to douse the flames.
Commander Mathieu Jamin says tracking small fires over a vast area is a difficult task.
It's like candles. These little candles everywhere have to be stopped immediately.
The professional firefighters supported by teams of volunteers, many driving their own vehicles into danger.
Without these volunteers, we can't win this war.
Some of them are local farmers trying to protect their fields. Others, like construction worker Kevin Garchan, just doing what they can.
Are you getting it under control?
The control, no. When we stop one fire, another one start over there.
In neighboring Spain, the fight is just as intense. Temperatures reaching 100 degrees as crews try to contain the biggest wildfire in Spain's modern history. A monster blaze west of Madrid that has now burned an area larger than Philadelphia. And intense fires also breaking out in Greece, where authorities say 2 firefighters were killed tackling a blaze on the island of Crete, and a third died on the mainland, according to Reuters. A struggle against the flames now stretching across Europe.
When you're out here, you really get a sense of the scale of the mobilization of these fire crews. One commander saying nearly every firefighter in France is involved in this effort. I'll send it back to you.
All right, Raf, thank you.
We've got much more to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, K-pop supergroup BTS turning down the chance to be considered for next year's Grammys. We'll tell you what led to the group's decision.
But up first, peace and unity. That was the message during a concert at Pope Leo's summer home outside Rome. We'll bring you the highlights.
Welcome back. As Pope Leo begins his second year leading the Catholic Church, the Holy Father is continuing to focus on promoting peace and unity during a time of conflicts around the globe. And that message was on display yesterday at his summer residence outside Rome.
The Holy Father hosted a concert for peace featuring Andrea Bocelli and a choir of more than 160 young people from around the world. After the event, NBC Nightly News anchor Tom Yamas met with the Pope and asked him about making history as the first American pontiff. Here's part of their exchange.
Your Holiness, thank you so much for speaking with us. You are the first American Pope. It's something you don't speak about often. I'm curious, how important is being American to you, and what do you love about America?
Well, first of all, just to clarify, I think of myself more as the Pope who happens to be American. Not to belittle what it means to be American. I was born in the United States. My family is still in the United States. I have great love for America. But I understand my mission as having a very important dimension, which is precisely being pastor of a universal church and having a voice and an opportunity to speak to people throughout the world. So I will put things in that order. And yet, at the same time, I will acknowledge that for myself, as well as for the people of the United States, judging by the response that we've seen since May 8th of last year, that there is great significance in being the first American Pope.
We asked the first American to lead the Catholic Church what he still carries from home.
What do you love about America?
So many things. In a sense, speaking about principles, what America stands for. The sense of freedom, the sense of opportunity, the sense of having invited for generations people from around the world to be part of America. I come from a family that my grandparents were immigrants. On my mother's side, we have people who were both slaves and slave owners. There's a history of if you will, growing up and the kind of experience that helps me to recognize myself one of the greatest wealths of the United States. and I continue to hold the principles that have been a part of being American for so many years that will continue.
A history traced by a genealogist only after his election, and one he has never spoken about publicly. Pope Leo XIV speaking with us just after hosting a concert for peace in the Papal Gardens at Castel Gandolfo, where Andrea Bocelli and a choir of children from parts of the world gripped by crisis performed.
It was beautiful to see children from different parts of the world singing together. I've heard Andrea Bocelli sing other times, and so to have, if you will, the blessing of Andrea Bocelli and his voice together with this choir put together by the foundation, but all these children coming together from different parts of the world was just a very uplifting experience. Very nice.
And then the question so many Americans have been wondering.
Will Americans see you soon in America?
They will see me there. By coincidence, today we were looking at the calendar for the next couple of years. Nothing is set in stone yet, but I certainly hope to be there soon.
But next couple of years, I heard you. Your Holiness, thank you.
The Pope Watch begins. Our thanks to Tom Yamas for that.
Coming up, recent college grads looking to start their careers are finding it more difficult than they planned.
When we come back, we're going to break down the results of a new survey that's putting the spotlight on the job market for the class of 2026. This is Morning News Now.
We're back now with a look at why recent college graduates are feeling anxious about their future careers. Data from job boards and surveys, it points to a greater challenge for young workers as they try to get into the job market.
And we've got new data from the National Association of Colleges and Employers. It's a group that connects talent recruiters and university career professionals. The survey shows the class of 2026 is applying for more jobs but receiving fewer offers. Experts say this is leading to both discouraged job seekers and just a more competitive marketplace.
To help us break this down, we're joined here on set by senior reporter at Yahoo Finance, Brooke DePalma. Brooke, good morning. Always love when you join us. So LinkedIn also says that its hiring rates, the entry-level jobs, they've sunk 5 years in a row now is the trend that they're seeing. What is it right now about the job market that makes it so different as a young person enters it?
Yeah, certainly a staggering stat there. You think about 5 years ago, entry-level positions are down about 20%. So it certainly is fearing among recent grads. When you take a look into the data, what's really happening here is that entry-level positions, as you can see on your screen, are going to people maybe with more experience, or more experienced employees are applying for these entry-level positions. I mean, we take a look, people who have experience for nearly a decade, actually nearly half of them are applying for jobs that maybe they're overqualified for, because we're still in this low hire, low fire environment. And so they're looking to get a foot in the door. And so they're willing to take these jobs that maybe they wouldn't have taken in the past.
And I'm just talking about the fact that I have some friends who are my age, who've been out of work for a couple of years. They can't find anything that sort of fits what they normally got paid, what usually matches their experience, which might be why that's happening. The latest jobs report showed we added just 57,000 jobs in June. That was below what's expected. So, I mean, it's just a larger problem, not just limited to recent grads.
Yeah, I mean, it is a larger problem. When you think about the unemployment rate, we stayed steady around 4.2%. But if you dive into the numbers even further, some recent data has told us that recent college graduates, so think ages 22 to 27, that rate is about 5.6%. As you can see, it's remained elevated really over the past few years, seeing those bump bumps during the recession, those bump bumps during 2020, but it stayed above all college graduates. That stat is about 3.1%. But still, we're in this boat where right now employees, or rather employers, are really assessing their workforce. They're saying, okay, we're facing higher for longer interest rates. We're facing also productivity gains because of AI. We're also facing higher energy prices now because of this conflict ongoing with Iran. On top of that, we're facing trade policy. Tariffs are back in the picture now. And so they're trying to really budget in this environment and maybe taking a good look at their workforce, not really adding as many workers as what they used to.
How is AI impacting all this?
That is the big question, right? I mean, but
any topic, yes.
Any topic. How is AI impacting this topic? And in particular, when it comes to the workforce, what we've seen is because employers are taking a look at their workforce, they're saying, all right, how can I maybe cut costs, add AI, and boost productivity, be a little bit more cost effective? And as you can see on your screen, this recent data from Challenger Gray and Christmas showed that AI was the leading cause of layoffs year to date. About 23% of all job cuts was due to AI-related concerns, or rather just saying we don't necessarily need these positions because we could put it off to AI.
So if you are this younger worker who's graduating from college, you're not just competing against others who are graduating, you are competing against against these older, more experienced workers. Are there some tips on just what you can maybe do to stand out to try and improve your odds of getting a job?
Yeah, well, I speak to a lot of executives, and what many of them tell me is that they want an inside look into what the younger generation is thinking. So if you position yourself as maybe part of Gen Z or Gen Alpha, and you have a different take than maybe a more experienced worker, that could be one way. But also, if you currently have an internship, keep in touch. Networking is really everything.
Huge.
Get those contacts and follow up throughout your year. Or even what I've heard recent graduates do is actually take an internship post-grad with the hopes that that could turn into a full-time job.
All right, good tips there. Brooke DeBauman, thanks so much. Good to see you.
You talked about trade. We do have some more trade news. The Trump administration is banning all humanoid robots not made in the U.S. It's part of an effort to beat China in the race for global robotic dominance. The Federal Communications Commission says that the technology poses a risk to national security. China is calling that an attempt to suppress business. NBC News Chief Justice and National Affairs correspondent Kelly O'Donnell takes a closer look.
Those high-tech robots out of China won't be heading here anytime soon. With a new ban just announced by the Trump administration on any new humanoid robots not made in the U.S. A shot across the bow at Beijing as Chinese companies seek to run out in front of an emerging market. In a new statement, FCC Chair Brendan Carr says the robots pose unacceptable risks to the national security of the United States. Carr, talking with NBC News.
What's key about this is we're acting relatively early so that we don't discover 5 years or 10 years from now that we're too dependent on foreign produced technology at vulnerable points in our supply chain or our economy. And we haven't developed the industrialized base here domestically to produce it.
The ban also includes so-called quadrupeds, like this dog robot on wheels made by the company Unitree. The FCC specifically calling out a reported vulnerability in that company's robots, saying last year researchers identified a potentially pre-installed backdoor that gave access to the camera feed and allowed them to take control. Unitree saying at the time it completed a majority of the fixes. NBC News reached out to the company about the new ban and has not heard back.
They have had some impressive videos out there, but this is part of our systematic review of technology risks, economic risks, and supply chain risks.
Humanoid robots going viral, displaying a wide range of skills, like running a marathon in Beijing, playing a full soccer match, or even kickboxing. Not every robot works so well. This one in China dancing to Michael Jackson's Billie Jean. And there's this moment when a robot kicked a child, also in China. While they may not all be ready for prime time, they are poised to make big bucks. Analysts at Morgan Stanley project the market could hit $15 billion just 4 years from now. And 2 decades after that, the firm says hundreds of millions could be roaming the streets. Chinese companies like Unitree and Agabot make up a huge portion of the market so far. China pushing back on the FCC ban, with one top official accusing the U.S. of trying to suppress Chinese companies.
Such protectionist measures will not enhance America's competitiveness. Instead, it only harms the interests of American businesses and consumers.
China's ambitions for its robotic industry go beyond entertaining. The Pentagon reporting that China has been developing large numbers of military UAVs and testing the capabilities of drone swarms that could overwhelm traditional defenses.
Anything that Russia's done in Ukraine, Iran's done in the Middle East, China's ready to do it at a bigger scale.
NBC News' Gotti Schwartz just went inside a company in the U.S. hoping to make humanoid soldiers with a Defense Department contract. Its CEO saying we need to catch up to China.
There are spokespeople from the Chinese Communist Party who are saying that you're not going to beat us on defense and robotics. If nobody was doing it, that would be one thing. But you can't just have one side do it.
Potentially next on the list to be banned, Chinese AI, something that has divided Silicon Valley. Some, like the leader of chipmaker NVIDIA, support more open source models. Others, like Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei, saying Beijing wants to build powerful AI models to achieve permanent military superiority. all of it posing a new threat to a relationship between the leaders of the world's two superpowers, a tussle over tech that could define the next generation. Kelly O'Donnell, NBC News.
Coming up, one of the biggest names in music is turning down next year's Grammy Awards.
Up next, supergroup BTS says it won't submit their music for consideration. We've got a lot of reaction this morning. We'll explain why.
Welcome back. Telehealth company Hims & Hers is facing new legal scrutiny from the government. The Federal Trade Commission filed a lawsuit against the company yesterday, alleging that it shared users' health data with online advertising companies, including Meta and Snap, despite promises of privacy.
The suit also alleges Hims & Hers engaged in deceptive billing and cancellation practices. So this is one of the largest telehealth platforms that offers prescriptions for weight loss drugs, hair loss, erectile dysfunction, and they're all shipped straight to users' doors.
NBC News legal analyst Angela Sandadella is here to break down the lawsuit for us. So the FTC, the fact that they're showing that this is like sensitive health information that's being shared with advertising companies, how serious is it if the FTC proves its case, and what could it mean for people who use these services?
Good morning. Yeah, so look, this is very serious because, as you noted, it is health data. But I also want to say that if these allegations are true, it's also terrifyingly commonplace. This is kind of how digital advertising works. Generally, they just do things and then get reined in later by lawsuits. This is how most of the money on the internet is made. But with regards to these health data, the reason why it's extra of an issue here is because the FTC is also alleging that they made false promises, that they claim this is only going to be reviewed by medical providers, and also that it's going to be 100% private and secure. But the commonplace issue, this answers the question of why is it that when you're on social media or on the internet generally, there are ads that seem to know exactly what you're looking for.
Wait a second.
Right, it seems oddly coincidental, right?
Yeah.
It's not. It's all targeted advertising.
Wow. The lawsuit also claims that people were charged in some cases before they even saw a doctor, that they had a difficult time canceling, which I think is an issue with a lot of subscription services. How does that factor in here? How does the FTC prove that?
Yeah, so those are also big concerns that are separate from the privacy issue. And the FTC in the last 5 years has made it their mission to really make canceling a lot easier on the internet. But again, as I said before, what happens is that these companies without real regulations will just try to make canceling harder because they make money how? Based on user retention, right? So the employees always have this tension where they're not sure quite how do we then keep customers without also hiding these cancellation buttons and making it clear and conspicuous. So that's what the FTC's standard is, how clear and conspicuous are all the disclosures and all of the language. It's very complicated. I work in this field, and there are lawyers who literally just do this.
Hims & Hers responding, they are calling this lawsuit baseless. They say the move is an effort to generate headlines at our expense. The company also says the FTC ignored evidence that it provided during a nearly 3-year investigation. So at this point, what's the company's strongest response to fight this?
So generally, the company's response to something like this, because it's factual based, is just, oh, there was no real intention here. And also, as soon as we realized there was a problem, we scaled it back. But where these companies run into huge problems is their employees, as I noted. Amazon, for example, had to settle for over $1 billion, even though they were going to trial, because employee records and communications might show, like, oh, yeah, look, I made this button a little smaller here, or I made this cancellation flow a little more difficult. And that's how we retained X number more customers. So this tension is what is very problematic for companies.
You're kind of touching on this, but what could the penalties be for them?
So usually it's a settlement, and usually it's just money. But also coming with that is an injunction, meaning these companies then will be required to stop sharing this data and to also make it very clear. So I think there's a lot of enforcement that happens, not just money.
All right, Angela Sandadella, good to have you with us. Thank you so much.
Well, one of the biggest pop acts in the world says it is going to sit out music's biggest night. It's K-pop supergroup BTS, and they say they will not submit their music for consideration at next year's Grammy Awards after the Recording Academy created a new Best Asian Pop Music Performance category.
That move drew some backlash across the music industry and then prompted BTS to speak out. In a statement posted to Instagram, the group says it hopes its music can be, quote, heard and loved for what it is, rather than being divided by region or language.
All right. Joining us now is entertainment journalist Chase Kong. Chase, good morning. Thanks so much for being here. So, I mean, I think no matter who you are, you know that BTS is just a complete phenomenon. They've already been nominated 5 times. They've performed on the Grammy stage. And this group is expected to be a major contender this year. So walk us through just, I mean, a group of this stature opting out of the Grammys, how big of a deal it is.
Hi, good morning. There have been a few artists like Morgan Wallen and Frank Ocean who decided not to submit their music for Grammy consideration. And I think BTS case is especially similar to Frank Ocean's decision to sit out the 2017 Grammys. The specific issue was different, but both artists used non-submission to challenge how the Grammys recognize artists and represent them. I've been closely following their interviews and documentaries, and BTS has been reflecting a lot on this topic while preparing their comeback. In their recent album, Arirang, there is a song called Alien, and they explore what it means to be a global artist. It has been a long-standing concern for them because even after becoming global stars, they are still often defined by their language and region rather than simply being recognized as artists.
So the Grammy CEO said in a statement yesterday that this new Asian pop category was created to expand who is recognized. There is this issue. Obviously, very, very few artists, sometimes only 1 or 2 a year, win the biggest awards, which might be the motivation behind some of these more niche categories. Why does BTS see this so differently?
The category may have been created in the name of diversity, but it doesn't. A single song can now be created across multiple countries, but the institutions surrounding music have not caught up yet. For example, K-pop artists like BTS now work with many producers and songwriters from the US, and they have been incorporating Western sounds and even English lyrics. So sometimes it is difficult to distinguish a K-pop song from an American pop song based on sound alone. Imagine if the Grammys introduced a new category called Best American Pop Album. It would sound unnecessary because American pop is already considered mainstream. So K-pop fans are asking why K-pop is still being treated as something separate.
How are fans reacting? How are other artists reacting?
Many fans feel that the new category creates another boundary between K-pop and the mainstream. They're saying that the introduction of an Asian pop category feels too timely to be just a coincidence. They also think the Grammys decision is outdated because it doesn't define artists by music itself.
So given this reaction, the size of the fandom, the market share that BTS controls, could this decision put pressure on the Recording Academy to rethink new categories like this?
Absolutely. The Recording Academy CEO released a lengthy statement shortly after BTS announced their boycott. So K-pop fandoms are really especially active and organized online. So I expect fans will continue raising awareness and organizing digital campaigns around the issue.
All right, Chase Kong, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, another news out of Hollywood, Oscar-winning actor Jared Leto is facing new allegations of sexual misconduct. 4 women allege Leto assaulted them when they were teenagers. Those 4 who came forward were part of a group of 10 women who accused the actor of criminal behavior in a new BBC documentary. Leto denies these allegations. NBC News entertainment correspondent Chloe Malas has the details.
Oscar-winning actor Jared Leto accused by multiple women speaking to the BBC of sexual misconduct. 4 women, 3 of whom spoke to the BBC with their faces concealed, recounted their experiences from between 2002 and 2016, when Leto was in his 30s and 40s. The women each teenagers at the time. The BBC says it corroborated a number of the women's accounts with friends and family.
But it quickly moved into oh, well, you're a virgin.
Leto, now 54, is a Hollywood heavyweight, winning an Oscar for his role in Dallas Buyers Club and starring in films like Suicide Squad. In the BBC story, a woman identified as Isabel says she met with Leto in a Las Vegas motel when she was 17 and he was in his 30s. She says he called her over to the bathroom while he was in the shower.
He grabbed my hand and he, I guess, started touching himself with my hand.
She says she then left. In a statement, Leto said, "I have never sexually assaulted anyone in my entire life. These claims are absolutely and categorically false." Another woman told the BBC when she met Leto in California, she let him know she was only 17 and that he pursued sex with her anyway.
He told me, I would like you to call me daddy, and it was either pretend to be a little girl or my little girl.
A growing number of allegations now swirling around one of Hollywood's biggest stars. Chloe Malas, NBC News.
All right, coming up, a young entrepreneur is making his name known in the advertising industry.
We come back, we're going to tell you how he's putting a fresh new spin on an old concept thanks to social media. Stay with us. We're ending this hour with a young entrepreneur who's shaking up the advertising game with a mini mic. Josh Suggs is building a business around man-on-the-street interviews with his ad agency called Street Talk.
It's a new spin on an old idea, right? Showing off consumer brands through real conversations, now on social media. NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung sat down with the young co-founder for his own interview about what it takes to turn vertical videos into a valuable profit.
They ask you a super quick question. How many hours do you sleep a night? What would you do if your boyfriend smelled like this?
23-year-old Josh Suggs is disrupting the advertising industry with Street Talk, his creative agency turning unscripted street interviews into social media brand ads.
When you're starting a business for the first time, momentum is the only thing that matters.
For the Connecticut native, having something of his own has always been the goal.
Tell me about your journey.
Always had side hustles, started doing social media for barbershops in my town for free haircuts.
When you were like in high school?
Yeah, when I was 14, 15, I would take photos, like before and after photos. I did that for 2 years.
What gave you the original idea that you wanted to do stuff like this?
Yeah, I wanted to be an entrepreneur and have hustles and make my own way.
At 18, Josh enrolled at Syracuse University, but his focus wasn't on his studies. By junior year, his friend reached out with an offer he couldn't refuse.
He had a software company called Study Buddy. He asked me if he could give me $2,000 for 30 street interviews about his software product. And at the time, I was like, $2,000? Are you kidding me? It's like, hell yeah.
That's more money than I've ever seen as a college student.
Yeah. He sent me the money the same day. And I asked 30 people about his software.
You just had like a tiny mic? Or
had a tiny mic, had my friend with my phone follow me around. I then gave him all the raw footage, didn't even edit it. And he ran it as an ad, and it did really well. Up until then, the only way to monetize social media was for you to get 1 million followers and then charge a brand to get a brand deal. Now, you don't need a following. That brand will give you that same amount of money just to make that content for them. And that's kind of where the idea happened.
More brands reached out, and just a year shy of graduation, he pivoted to growing the business full-time.
When you decided that you were going to drop out of Syracuse, you probably had that conversation with your parents. What was that conversation like?
I was like, guys, I'm signing a brand every day at this point. You know, the founders of 9-figure brands are DMing me, hopping on phone calls with me and paying me money. Have something that every single brand needs. Nobody's selling this for them. You know, we need to make this a real business. They were like, what are you talking about? And they
weren't sold.
They were not sold. They also just saw how it looks on the outside. That does not look like a job. That does not look like what you pay $200,000 for a college degree for. And they just really didn't get it.
Josh's mom, Sharon, came around after talking to a friend, Jesse Eisenberg, who worked at a top advertising agency.
She started to tell me more, and I started to peel back the layers. Eventually, I had to stop her and say, Sharon, he's got lightning in a bottle that most people wait an entire lifetime and never even get to. If you make him stay in school, he might resent you for the rest of his life.
Digital advertising is booming as companies spent nearly $300 billion in 2025. Aligning with Josh's vision, Jesse joined the startup as CEO last year.
We have a team of creative strategists that are leveraging the 20,000 interviews we've done to date. We have the hosts on the streets that are hitting those specific hooks that we know are going to grab people's attention.
How much are you spending on supplements every month?
A scale of 1 to 10, how confident you are in your brand?
Street Talk has over 8 figures in revenue and a growing staff and client list.
One of our best street talkers is out here crushing the street interview.
With dozens of new hosts hitting the street, I decided to try my hand at it.
You ask leading questions where the answer to it is a need for the product. That does not look like an ad. You don't go out and immediately talk about a brand.
And let's just say it wasn't a walk in the park. Excuse me, guys, can I ask you a question okay, no worries. Shut down instantly. Excuse me, ma'am, can I ask you a question about something? No? Oh, okay, great. Excuse me, can we ask you a question real quick?
2 seconds.
Sure. Yeah, it's gonna take 2 seconds real quick. The art of taking advertising to the streets, giving Josh Suggs a whole new purpose.
I bet on myself, but I also bet on the future of social media. I knew that social media was the digital real estate of today's world. The digital land is now more valuable than anything else, and attention is more valuable than it's ever been.
All right, Brian Chung, thanks for that story. Looking ahead, Josh is expanding the Street Talk brand to include a founders podcast for more unscripted conversations with other successful entrepreneurs. So,
I mean, good for him.
Good job. And Brian should have been better at that. And Luz, that's what we're doing all the time, is stopping people on the street. So I use my body to block them. Anyway, that does it for this hour of Morning News.
Oh, no, everyone's like, I hope I don't run into him.
Whatever it takes.
Stay with us. The news continues. Good morning, and thanks for starting your Thursday with us. I'm Savannah Sellers.
I'm Joe Fryer. Right now on Morning News Now, wet and not so mild. Parts of New York and New England starting to dry off after that massive severe weather system dropped more than 10 inches of rain in a day in some spots. Well, out west and down south, hot heat has nearly 70 million people sweating through their work week. So when might the cooler temps prevail? Angie's got your forecast coming up. A tale of two testimonies reverberating from the halls of Capitol Hill to the White House. Dr. Anthony Fauci stunning top lawmakers yesterday by navigating his hearing on the origins of COVID with a lot of statements like this.
I will invoke my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution to refrain from answering your questions.
Why Dr. Fauci chose to keep it constitutional more than 100 times, and the 11th hour delay in the Senate now throwing Todd Blanche's path to Attorney General into doubt. Plus, steady as she goes, the Federal Reserve handing down an all too familiar call, keeping interest rates right where they are. But in the dog days of our summer of inflation, will wallets start to see any relief in the coming months? And how's Wall Street reacting to it all? We are watching your bottom line. And can learning a new language actually translate to living a longer life? Eye-opening new research points to quite the brain boost from broadening your world's horizons. Understand? Well, we'll spell it out for you. Talking a lot about that with the World Cup. That got so many people interested in learning new languages online. And it's good for you, too.
Absolutely.
All right, let's start this hour with that severe summer weather that's impacting millions of people all around the country. More than 11 inches of rain fell on parts of upstate New York and New England yesterday. That created dangerous flash flooding. The rushing water damaged several buildings, even carried pieces of a mill downstream. First responders had to rescue a grandmother, her granddaughter, and two pets by boat from a home that was surrounded by water.
And then in northern New Jersey, several cars, look at this, they were just charred after strong winds knocked over a utility pole and the power lines sparked this fire. That same storm system also spawned several tornadoes that touched down in central Tennessee and on Maryland's eastern shore. NBC News correspondent Ryan Chandler has been following the storms. He joins us now from Dallas with the latest, where it is expected to be hot today. Ryan, good morning.
Savannah, good morning. We are certainly already feeling that sweltering weather over Texas this morning. It is just starting to see the sun come up in Texas, and that could push us north of 100 degrees today, with tens of millions of people waking up to extreme heat alerts from California to Florida, with only more extreme weather on the way.
It's a tale of two summers. In the Southwest and the Plains, the heat is sweltering.
It's been so hot.
Temperatures as high as 20 degrees above average. Firefighters in Phoenix rescuing a hiker who fell ill, with temperatures on the trail already in the mid-90s at the time.
I got up there and it's like, what the heck did I do? Bringing over family, I shouldn't have done this. But I knew that I really needed help.
Meanwhile, torrential rain is pummeling the Northeast. A powerful storm system stretching from Pennsylvania to Connecticut. Swift-moving waters collapsing buildings and submerging streets.
Present situation in town.
Bringing tragedy in New Jersey, where a 10-year-old boy passed away after getting caught in the Passaic River, pushing his sister to safety.
The little boy may have saved her life.
Another young girl still missing. Downpours also flooding upstate New York, where some communities saw more than 10 inches of rain in just 24 hours, prompting water rescues and forcing drivers to abandon submerged cars. The storm's wreaking havoc on travel and disrupting one of the Northeast's busiest Amtrak lines because of water on the tracks, as Americans cope with another week of wild weather.
And as so much of that tragic weather turns destructive, even deadly, it's worth remembering that the extreme heat, like the type we're going to see here in Dallas and all across the country, with so many people seeing temperatures north of 100 degrees today, that extreme heat is the deadliest form of weather that the average American faces every year. Officials all across the country urging caution as we make our way through this today. Savannah, Joe.
All right, Ryan, thank you.
For more on the severe weather, let's turn now to NBC meteorologist Angie Lassman.
Just checking the heat across the country and the dangerous flooding conditions in the Northeast. Hey, Angie.
Hey, good morning. We are once again dealing with a whole lot of heat across the country, and you can see these heat alerts expansive from across parts of the Southwest to the Southern Plains and all the way to the Gulf Coast. We've got 69 million people under these heat alerts as we gear up for this heat dome, kind of really getting your attention when it comes to temperatures over the next couple of days. Today, 109 in Tucson. We've got high 90s for Albuquerque, 96 in Wichita, but feeling like 104. It'll feel like 106 in Houston this afternoon as well. Even as far north as Green Bay, temperatures topping out into those low 90s. So some late summertime heat still in place even as we get into tomorrow. It actually gets a little hotter in some spots. Phoenix at 115. Lubbock ends up at 101. Oklahoma City topping out at 101. Record highs are going to be likely across much of the Southwest, especially as we get into the weekend. Notice these highs in Los Angeles, 95 degrees. We've got 116 on Saturday in Phoenix. Even across parts of the Rockies, you're going to see temperatures well into the triple digits. Notice Salt Lake City, 105 for the start of your weekend. Meanwhile, better conditions across New England, but we're not fully done with this rain just yet. You can see we've still got some lingering showers across this area. All the flood watches have since expired, so we're not so concerned about that, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's some minor localized flooding in some of these spots as we gear up for a little bit more of this rain in the picture. That flash flood risk does extend across New England, parts of Maine, stretching down to Connecticut. It'll be isolated, but again, we received so much rain over the past couple of days that even another quarter of an inch or so could be problematic for folks. Big picture look otherwise today, it's hot and dry across parts of the West. Plenty of sunshine there. We'll see the heat and humidity, as I mentioned, across the South, and some of those severe storms for parts of the plains. That'll be something you deal with into the afternoon hours. More sunshine, though, from the Great Lakes stretching to parts of the Mid-Atlantic and the Ohio Valley through the day today. Back to you.
All right, Angie, thank you. Well, in Washington, Republicans on Capitol Hill are threatening to hold Dr. Anthony Fauci in contempt this morning. The new threat comes after the longtime public health leader invoked the Fifth Amendment, refusing to answer any questions during a Senate hearing on COVID's origins yesterday. NBC News White House correspondent Monica Alba is in Washington with the details. Monica, good morning.
Savannah, good morning to you. And that's right, this hearing was supposed to be part of that investigation into the origins of COVID-19 and the government's response, but instead it really highlighted the deep partisan divisions that still exist over the pandemic years later.
This morning, Dr. Anthony Fauci facing a new threat, a potential contempt of Congress vote, after refusing more than 100 times to answer questions Wednesday during a contentious Senate hearing.
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
The former director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases calling the Republican chairman, Senator Rand Paul, unhinged.
The sole reason he is calling me before this committee is to get me to say something, anything, that could vindicate his repeated public pledges that I end up, in his words, quote, behind bars.
Senator Paul, who's accused Fauci of what he calls a COVID cover-up, saying his committee will vote next week on whether Fauci violated the law.
If that resolution passes our committee, which it will, that it could simply be referred directly to the Department of Justice.
During the nearly 3-hour hearing, Republicans repeatedly slamming Fauci, who was a key member of the White House COVID task force for both the Trump and Biden administrations.
It is a total disgrace what you did to this country.
What color is the carpet in front of you?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer.
You could sit for In Style magazine, but you can't answer questions for the American people.
And condemning him for COVID shutdowns.
Who the do you think you were for doing that?
President Trump, who once had this to say about individuals who refuse to answer questions under oath.
You see, the mob takes the Fifth. If you're innocent, why are you taking the Fifth Amendment?
But later invoked the Fifth Amendment himself more than 400 times in a civil case in New York. After the hearing, the president asked about Fauci's decision.
I've never been a big fan of Fauci. Why he did that was very simple. His lawyer told him to.
Committee Democrats suggesting Fauci, who by his own count has testified before Congress more than 200 times during his decades in public health, made the right call.
This proceeding smacks of a show trial, a vendetta.
Now, the pardon that Fauci received from former President Biden would not apply to any criminal charges that could come from yesterday's refusal to answer questions, which is ultimately up to the DOJ, while Fauci's attorney says they are completely confident that he was on solid ground in asserting his Fifth Amendment right. Savannah.
All right, Monica, thank you.
Staying in Washington, Todd Blanche's path to becoming the permanent attorney general could be hanging in the balance.
That is after a Senate subcommittee postponed a vote on Blanche's nomination over disagreements with Republican Senators John Cornyn of Texas and Thom Tillis of North Carolina. The GOP-led committee was scheduled to hold the vote this morning.
NBC News Chief Justice and National Affairs correspondent Kelly O'Donnell joins us now with more on this. So, Kelly, walk us through why this vote's postponed and just what the concerns are from both Cornyn and Tillis.
Good morning to both of you. This is a real snag for Todd Blanche. The vote was supposed to happen today in the committee that extends that confirmation to the full Senate. And there he would likely get that vote and become Attorney General. Postponing this with no date set yet is a significant roadblock. And what it's about is that two Republican senators have been unwilling to commit to a yes. So the chairman of the committee is holding off until they know it will be a successful vote. And that's part of working closely with the White House. And the issue is that, according to these two senators, John Cornyn of Texas, Thom Tillis of North Carolina, they have not had a satisfactory answer from Todd Blanche and the Department of Justice over two issues. It centers around the Trump family IRS settlement. And from that came what was referred to as an anti-weaponization fund of nearly $2 billion. Blanche says publicly it's not going forward. That would have been taxpayer money that could be funneled to people who are Trump allies and others who believe the government was weaponized against them. Blanche says under oath it won't go forward, but he has not put it in writing to the satisfaction of these two senators. In addition, they have concerns about the agreement to not have certain audits by the IRS of the Trump family, and they want some specifics on that. So those things need to be worked out. The DOJ says they've put written proposals before them, but the two senators are not satisfied, and that is what's holding this up.
What's been the reaction, Kelly, from President Trump to this latest roadblock?
Well, that's interesting because he, of course, is a very big fan of Todd Blanche. He appointed him to this role. He had served as his personal attorney for a number of years. And the president didn't even seem to indicate that he knew that Blanche was in trouble. He talked to some of the reporters in the room and said that he expected everything was fine. Here's a bit of what the president had to say.
Well, all I can say is Todd Blanche is outstanding. And I thought it was pretty routine because he's so good. You just wouldn't find a better person. So I don't know, maybe John Cornyn's upset with me because I didn't endorse him.
Well, it has not turned out to be pretty routine, and John Cornyn says that is not true, that it is not about the president not endorsing him. You may remember Cornyn lost his primary because the president endorsed his opponent, or at least that was a factor. He's not going back to the Senate in the new year, and neither is Thom Tillis, who chose to retire. Both of them are saying they really want to make certain that they get the right language here and a commitment that will stick. And, of course, this also is not just a decision for Todd Blanche. It also includes the president's private lawyers who had initiated this IRS settlement for the president and members of his family. So this is still a real question mark, and we'll be following it closely today.
So, Kelly, because of what you just mentioned there, Tillis and Cornyn really got nothing to lose politically. The normal tactics the White House might use to say, hey, get in line, don't work here. So with that in mind, could there be any resolution found anytime soon?
Well, both of them say they want to get to yes, but because this is taxpayer money and it's a really unusual situation of having protection from audits for the Trump family, members of the Trump family, they want this in writing so it will stick. They say that they can get to yes, but it hasn't happened yet. And if they don't get that agreement, they have, by withholding their votes, they have the ability to stop Blanche's confirmation altogether.
All right. Kelly O'Donnell in Washington. Kelly, thank you.
Well, in the Middle East, the U.S.-Iran war is escalating once again. Overnight, U.S. Central Command said it carried out strikes against Iran in response to attacks on U.S. bases in the region. Well, the back-and-forth strikes come as NBC News learns that President Trump is growing increasingly frustrated by his limited options to end the war. NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez is with us with the latest. Hey, Gabe, good morning.
Hey, Savannah, good morning. Weeks after the ceasefire collapse, this again appears to be an all-out war, with Iran denying that it wants to sit down for peace talks. People familiar with the discussions tell NBC News the president is increasingly exasperated on Iran as top officials cannot agree on a path forward. Overnight, the U.S. military launching new retaliatory strikes against Iran. U.S. Central Command saying it hit dozens of targets, including military command centers, as well as missile and drone facilities.
We're going to be hitting them very hard because it's our turn to hit them.
President Trump with that earlier warning after Iran's unsuccessful surprise ballistic missile attack against American forces the day before in Jordan.
We had 5 rockets shot going 8,500 miles an hour, and all 5 rockets were knocked down to the ground.
Iran this morning threatening its own retaliation, vowing, quote, the aggressor will be punished today. This latest escalation coming after Iran broke a preliminary ceasefire deal by firing on commercial ships in the Strait of Hormuz weeks ago. The war appears to now be intensifying again throughout the region. Smoke seen rising over a U.S.-owned gas storage tanker in Egypt. Saudi Arabia joining the U.S. attacking Iran-aligned militias in Iraq. Still, President Trump is insisting Iran is ready to make a deal.
It's going to be straightening out. It's going to be straightening out.
Meanwhile, Americans are increasingly skeptical of the conflict. 72% in a new poll disapprove of the president's handling of Iran. A U.S. official and a person familiar with the discussion tell NBC News the president's frustrations about his military and diplomatic options to end the war erupted during a meeting last week with top national security officials. At one point, the president yelling expletives. The White House calling that description false, adding that the president trusts his team. For now, though, the pause in hostilities is over, and the war is flaring back up again.
We'll see if we get there with an agreement at some point, but we're going to hit them very hard.
Iran this morning is also claiming that its ballistic missiles destroyed 3 U.S. fighter jets and damaged 3 others at a military base in Jordan. The White House has not yet commented, Savannah.
All right, Gabe, thank you. There's much more to come on this hour of Morning News Now, including the budding battle over data centers across the nation, and now making waves on the midterm campaign trail. We'll explain.
First, though, after the break, Pope Leo's plea for peace playing out on the world stage as violence rages in Iran, Ukraine, and Gaza. More from that historic event for unity next. We're back now at the latest on the massive wildfires burning in Europe. This morning, thousands of people in Spain who had been evacuated from their homes are now allowed to return. Reporter Connor Gillis from our UK partner Sky News has the latest from Madrid.
For days, these roads here in Spain led only one way, away from danger. Today, they're taking people home, 15,000 and counting allowed to come back. But it doesn't mean the danger has gone. This landscape tells a story. Some homes survived, others didn't. This village of Navas del Rey is a prime example. We meet Julian, who shows us around. The flames came dangerously close.
Un miedo de miedo, porque mira, ardió toda la valla.
It was really scary. Look at the whole fence. My neighbor's place was fine. There's very little damage. It could have caused big damage to the place. We were really scared.
I have a lot of ashes.
Magdalena is back too. She can't believe what she's seeing.
And my husband rang me that I have to be back because we have to leave the village because the police was coming telling us that we have to leave. So we grabbed like few stuff, few clothes, and we just left.
It must have been really hard, especially with your children, to return to this.
Yeah. It's really sad, like, because it's everything burned like black, and like all the kids from the village are playing all the time on the streets, and now it's like they have to see all this. It's not very nice, not very pleasant.
This is a careful return, but as you can see, firefighters remain here on the ground. Helicopters are remaining in this area as well. Nobody is assuming this is over yet.
toda la gente del pueblo.
Everyone from the town, the young people, are working and helping out however they can. Things have got out of control, so everyone's helping each other, friends and relatives, to try and get back to normal.
The evacuation near Madrid for those who were worst affected early on is now beginning to end. But for the people we have spoken to, the recovery is now only beginning. And for this wider Spanish region, the work of living with this wildfire goes on.
Our thanks to Sky News' Connor Gillis.
Well, we are just 1 month away from a very exciting NASA launch, but this one, it won't involve astronauts. Instead, the agency will send the most advanced telescope ever into deep space, providing a view unlike any we have ever seen before. NBC News senior correspondent Tom Costello, of course, you know he covers space for us. Tom, you got to go behind the scenes at NASA to see this. How amazing.
Yeah, we did. It is incredible. And I got to tell you, the excitement within NASA is palpable, right? This telescope is called the Nancy Grace Roman Telescope, named after NASA's first chief astronomer. It's going to orbit 1 million miles from Earth, 1 million. And if you think those images from Hubble and the James Webb Telescope are cool, the Roman Telescope may be about to blow our minds. 30 days and counting until NASA launches a new deep space telescope that could literally rewrite astronomy textbooks, unveiling new celestial objects and shedding light on the universe's mysteries, including dark matter, dark energy, exoplanets, virtually anything from our solar system to galaxies at the very edge of the universe, and upending everything we think we know about the universe.
We're very likely to demonstrate that our standard model is wrong and to set ourselves on a path to figuring out how does our universe really work.
We went into the NASA clean room to see the Roman telescope up close before NASA shipped it to Florida. Make no mistake, this telescope is going to revolutionize our understanding of the stars because its field of view is 100 times greater than that of Hubble. So that will allow it to see thousands of planets, millions of galaxies, billions of stars that we have no idea are even out there.
I mean, this is going to be the greatest exploration asset that we've ever put into space right now, and it's just the beginning.
Named after NASA's first chief astronomer, the Roman telescope is slated to launch on August 30th. It'll take 30 days to get to its proper orbit called L2, 1 million miles away, so Earth won't block its view. And then it will begin opening our eyes to a galaxy and universe we barely understand. Over the first 5 years, Roman will capture 50 times as many images as the Hubble telescope captured in 3 decades. Streaming a massive amount of data and images back to Earth, too many for any one person to survey them all.
We're talking about sending about 1 terabyte of data down to the ground every day. This is kind of like streaming 1 million songs from 1 million miles from Earth down to Earth. That's more music than I'll probably listen to in my whole life.
That's amazing. Tom, how quickly will these images be sent back to Earth?
Yeah, so it'll take a month to get into orbit, then 90 days to calibrate this 300 megapixel camera before the first images then come back to NASA. Maybe early 27 is when we expect to see the first images feeding back down to Earth. It will be capturing, as I said, an area of the sky 100 times larger than Hubble. And listen to this, Savannah. 1 month of observations of the galaxy would take a century with Hubble.
Wow.
So this is totally exploding in terms of capabilities and quite possibly our understanding of the universe.
Oh, that is so exciting, Tom. We love when you pump us up about a space story. Thank you.
Okay.
Now to a powerful message from Pope Leo delivered at his papal summer residence in Castel Gandolfo, just outside of Rome. The Holy Father hosted a concert for peace yesterday, bringing together Andrea Bocelli and young singers from around the world. The message, a call for unity amid conflicts in Ukraine, Gaza, and Iran. NBC News senior national correspondent Stephanie Gosk has more on this. Steph, good morning.
The concert featured legendary Italian tenor Andrea Bocelli alongside more than 150 children from war-torn regions around the world. Pope Leo spoke with nightly news anchor Tom Yamas after the event, reflecting on his role as leader of the Catholic Church and what it means to be an American.
Your Holiness, thank you so much for speaking with us.
NBC's Tom Yamas spoke with Pope Leo, who was raised in Chicago and says he loves America, but his priority now is leading the world's Catholics.
I'm curious, how important is being American to you?
I think of myself more as the Pope, who happens to be American. I understand my mission as having a very important dimension, which is precisely being pastor of a universal church. And yet, at the same time, I will acknowledge that for myself, as well as for the people of the United States, that there is great significance in being the first American Pope.
Pope Leo sharing for the first time on camera how slavery impacted his family.
On my mother's side, we have people who were both slaves and slave owners. There's a history of, if you will, growing up in the kind of experience that helps me to recognize myself one of the greatest wealths of the United States.
He also answered a question many Americans have been eager to know.
Will Americans see you soon in America?
They will see me there. Nothing is set in stone yet, but I certainly hope to be there soon.
The exchange taking place just moments after the pontiff's concert for peace at his summer home, Castel Gandolfo.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound.
World-renowned artist Andrea Bocelli singing alongside children from war-torn regions around the globe. At one point, a child from the choir addressing the Pope directly.
War is a dark night that takes away our friends, our parents, our schools, and our homes, and no one can tell us why.
Pope Leo telling Telemundo's Julio Vaquero that he believes children can teach us a great deal, while urging the world to set aside differences and unite in peace. As for that potential visit to the U.S., Pope Leo said he expects to be here in the next 2 years, but was not specific about the timing or a location. Back to you.
All right, Steph, thank you. Coming up, we're talking about data centers. Here's a big number for you. A recent Gallup poll shows nearly 7 in 10 Americans don't want them anywhere near their backyards.
And ahead of November's midterms, it's becoming quite the hot-button topic on the campaign trail. So we'll tell you what voters and the big tech giants are saying up next.
We're back now with a closer look at what's making news in the world of politics this morning, starting with President Trump's latest request for the Supreme Court. That story and more. Let's bring in NBC News politics reporter Megan Brand. Megan, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning. Yeah, let's start with President Trump, who asked the Supreme Court to overturn a multi-million-dollar jury award in an E. Jean Carroll case. Now we're waiting on the court's response. Remember, back in 2024, a jury decided that President Trump needed to pay Carroll $83.3 million for defaming her. Now President Trump's team is arguing that he should not have to pay the money because he has presidential immunity. This comes after President Trump had already appealed a case related to Carroll to the Supreme Court. The justices had declined to hear his appeal in the case where the jury had found that President Trump sexually abused and later defamed her. President Trump has denied her allegations. Let's go next to a Russia and Iran sanctions bill, which the Senate voted to advance earlier this week. The bill would pass sanctions against people like Russian political and military leaders. Lawmakers added Iran sanctions to the bill, too, as both wars stretch on. The bill received strong bipartisan support, with 86 senators voting to advance the bill in the chamber. The bill also would impose tariffs on imports from countries that buy a lot of Russian oil or natural gas. And yesterday, President Trump said that he wanted to add tariff powers related to Iran as well. Finally, let's go to Wisconsin. That is where former Wisconsin Democratic Party Chair Ben Wickler is considering running for Senate in 2028. He's been having talks for months about a potential Senate run. That's according to 3 people who spoke directly with him. One source told NBC that he does not plan on making a final decision this year, pointing instead to the looming midterm races. Now, you might remember his name from last year. That's when he ran but lost a race to be the chair of the Democratic National Committee. And that's a look at what's making news in politics this morning. Joe?
All right, Megan, thank you so much. More politics now. Several more states are going to hold primary elections next week. And as those races heat up, backlash over AI data centers is emerging as an unlikely campaign issue across party lines. A majority of Americans say they don't want data centers built near their homes. A Gallup poll released in March, you see it right there, found nearly 7 in 10 oppose new data center development in their communities. That opposition is now becoming an undeniable thorn in the side of candidates on both sides of the aisle who've been taking strong positions on this. NBC News national politics reporter Alan Smith is here with more on it. Alan, so we're seeing this opposition to these projects. Talk about what's driving the backlash and mostly just how is this playing out on the campaign trail right now?
Well, I think voters have a broad range of concerns about data centers in their communities. You're seeing environmental concerns, concerns over the promises that some of these companies are making, whether they're going to come true, and then just broad skepticism about AI in general. Just within the last few weeks, when you're thinking about the campaign trail, you've seen a number of developments. A bunch of candidates, particularly Democrats, have started cutting ads where they're naming anti-data center policies in the ads, really elevating the issue. I'm thinking of Francesca Hong in Wisconsin, who, named 3 things in a recent ad. It was, tax the rich, fund our schools, stop AI data centers. So really elevating the issue in the last couple of weeks.
What seems to be, like you mentioned some of the concerns, but the biggest things that people really are having trouble with and why they don't want to see these AI data centers in their backyard?
Well, I think they're concerned about the potential for their electricity bills being raised. I mean, that's obviously a huge one. They're concerned about environmental concerns like water usage. And some folks really just don't like the idea of a really huge building like this being smacked right in the middle of their community.
Got it. So last week, we know New York Governor Kathy Hochul signed the first statewide moratorium on data centers. Of course, she's up for election this year. Some lawmakers now want to see federal action. What's the Trump administration saying about this? Are they poised to do anything about this issue?
So the Trump administration has really centered their response around this ratepayer protection pledge. They're getting these AI data center companies to agree to cover the costs of any infrastructure upgrades to electric grids, really trying to get them to pay for their own electricity here entirely. And this has been their response really to what we saw last year with the kind of initial stages of this backlash, which really was centered around the rising electric bills that people really felt were associated with this wide proliferation of data centers.
On the other side of this, we rely on the companies that are relying on these data centers. So you have tech giants like Meta, OpenAI, Anthropic investing heavily in this election cycle. How are they responding to all this backlash and the fact that these are so incredibly unpopular?
Well, Meta's recently launched a campaign really focused on promoting AI, and it's really tough to not link feelings about AI to the ongoing debate about data centers.
Yeah.
But you're seeing people in the data center space really calibrating right now. I mean, there were folks I spoke to for this story who were saying, look, we've noticed the intensity here really ratcheting up, and we're trying to formulate a response, think about what potential additional steps we need to take here as November nears.
Supporters say they create jobs, they boost tax revenue, it's a benefit for local communities. Are we actually, though, seeing those results in places where these have already been built?
So I think you're seeing some of the data center developers get a little bit better about telling their own story. But a lot of this stuff does remain to be seen. There's promises of potential benefits down the road. There's some benefits folks are seeing initially. I think one of the biggest things is the job promise. You're seeing a lot of jobs in construction, kind of union jobs to get these places off the ground. But how many long-lasting jobs are going to be associated with them? I think that's still an open question.
All right. Alan Smith, good to have you with us. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate
Thanks so much,
it.
Joe.
Coming up, we know learning a new language can be a well-earned boost for your brain, but can it actually help you live longer? Why one expert says exercising the old noggin might even delay the impact of diseases like dementia. We're going to translate it all for you next. We're back with some economic news. As expected, the Federal Reserve kept interest rates unchanged yesterday. The possibility of a rate hike was back on the table amid high inflation, but markets were left a little confused over future rate policy after Fed Chair Kevin Warsh declined to offer any clues as to what the Fed might do going forward. His business and data correspondent Brian Chung joins us now to discuss this more. So before we get to that, I know you've been looking at some new GDP figures that just came out. First, what are those numbers telling us?
Yeah, we got a new read on the economy just a day after that Fed meeting. And basically what it told us was that the economy slowed in the second quarter of this year. GDP, which is a measure of economic growth in this country, grew at a 1.5% annual rate in the second quarter. That would be the period between March and June. That was a slowdown from the previous quarter and also short short of the 1.8% that economists were expecting. So this is a bit of a miss on that report. And that same report also gave us a read on inflation, and it showed us that prices in America on what they call the personal consumption expenditures index, it's another way of reading inflation, show that prices in June in this country went up at an annual rate of 3.7%. That was about in line with what economists had expected, but it's unfortunately above the 2% target that economists say we really should be at. So again, the overall picture, economic growth is slowing a little bit and inflation does remain uncomfortably high.
It's information like this that informs the Fed when it makes its decisions about rate changes.
Yep.
Why did it decide to make no change this time around?
Yeah, and the Fed didn't have this data that we were just talking about in front of them yesterday, but they did decide yesterday, because that was their preset calendar date to make a decision, to not raise interest rates in their meeting yesterday. Now, what was interesting about that decision was that it was not unanimous. So even though Kevin Warsh went up to the podium yesterday in the press conference and said, we're not going to raise interest rates, you had three officials, three Federal Reserve Bank presidents that said they would have preferred to raise interest rates in that meeting. So this is underscoring a divide within this Fed that the new Fed chair, Kevin Warsh, in only his second meeting has had to reckon with, and something he's going to have to contend with later on this year, because despite the fact that they did not raise yesterday, you have markets overwhelmingly pricing a chance that they'll raise interest rates by the end of this year and perhaps as soon as their next meeting, which would be in September.
And of course, that all begs the question of what is the Fed going to do next? We remember with Jerome Powell, he would maybe always give us a little bit of a hint as what's to come, that forward guidance. A little bit different this time around with this new Fed chair, Kevin Warsh, right?
Yeah, and look, I mean, in previous Fed chairs, they have all offered what you call forward guidance, where they kind of offer some hints, they maybe use some words to suggest like, okay, here's what might be on the table coming up around the bend, because that way markets can adjust, households can adjust. But Kevin Warsh is trying to basically say we don't want to offer that forward guidance anymore, because he has felt that in the past the Fed has had its hands tied to committing to something before data came out that might actually require the Fed to do the opposite. And so he kind of wants to bring that element of surprise back, even though he said in the press conference yesterday that's not his primary MO. But in the absence of that forward guidance, markets and also everyday Fed watchers, us in the press pool, we've been kind of left with nothing to work with, because the Fed chair is basically saying, I'm not going to answer any questions about what we're doing next. So September is the next meeting. I'm not going to give you any clues as to what we do then, even though markets are saying, all right, well, we're just going to try to take our best guess, which they think would be an interest rate hike.
How do markets react to surprise? Do they like that?
Markets move big on surprise, and that can mean up or down. And I think that's the big story. You take a look at what happened in markets yesterday. Now, to be fair, there were some things with big tech and Meta specifically that were part of the decline that we saw, but it was red across the board. The Dow Jones down by over 2%, the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ down by over 1.5% each. But bond markets, they moved crazy off of just the press conference. You saw the 30-year yield bump higher. And I think some of that is because of the volatility. You have the markets that are trying to figure out, what is this guy? What is this new Fed era going to look like? And while they try to figure that out, bond traders are kind of taking different sides of the trade. And for that reason, you have 30-year fixed mortgage rates also going higher, because when those higher yields go up, that means that the borrowing costs for buying a home also go up. 6.76% was the yield yesterday, and that is a lot higher than it was when it was like 6% at the beginning of 2026. Not good news for prospective home buyers.
No kidding. All right, Brian Jung, good to have you with us. Thank you so much. On the health front, new research supports the argument that learning a new language later in life can help you both stay mentally sharper and live longer. Experts say the mental stimulation from speaking and understanding a second language keeps the brain active and sharp, which can slow down how fast it ages. In some cases, it can even delay the effects of diseases like dementia. Richard Seema joins me now with more on the health benefits of learning a new language. He's a Brain Matters columnist for the Washington Post. Recently did some reporting on this. Richard, good to have you with us. We're going to get to maybe how it can help slow the effects of dementia in just a moment, but let's talk about some of the other benefits first. In addition to mental stimulation, what else does learning a new language do for our brain?
Oh man, it does a lot of great things. And I think that stimulation part is actually really key, because it turns out that for people who are bilingual, trilingual, or more, those other parts of the brain for those other languages are always active. So even if I'm speaking English, for example, parts of my brain, if I use Spanish or Chinese, would still be active. So you're always constantly monitoring, paying attention, figuring out what you're supposed to say, what you're not supposed to say, depending on the context. And what this does is make your brain more efficient, because it's always trying to pay attention. So when researchers monitor brain activity in bilinguals, it turns out actually they had less brain activity for same attention tasks. suggesting that they were less bothered by this attention, by this like work, because they've been doing it all their lives.
Of course, it's hard to learn another new language. I know you spoke with an expert who said the challenge of learning it can help improve your brain efficiency. How does it slow down the cognitive effects of conditions like dementia or Alzheimer's?
Yeah, it really gets to this idea of brain reserve. So if it's making your brain more efficient, it means it could get by with less. It can stave off a dementia diagnosis by 4 to 5 years, because even if there's these medical processes going on in the brain, it's able to figure out how to compensate, how to adapt, how to be resilient in the face of potential dementia, which is great for people who want to live longer and live their lives as they age.
The cool thing is we were during the World Cup talking about how like sites like Duolingo was seeing like an increase in people interested in learning new languages. And we know that the more people exercise their brain, that just the healthier it's going to be. One expert you spoke with say can also make the brain look younger. I mean, we all want to look younger, but the brain, walk me through how that works here.
Yeah, so they weren't opening up people's skulls and looking at the brain physically. Instead, they were taking all this biological data, brain activity data, and they were using these algorithms to basically predict how old someone is based on all this information. But when they looked at people who knew 2 or 3 or more languages, their brains looked younger on these brain clocks. So if you spoke 2 or 3 languages, they looked 6 years younger. People who spoke 4 languages looked 13 years younger by these brain clocks.
That's incredible. So real quick here, if someone's interested in learning a new language, how do you start?
Yeah, it's never too late, but basically you want to use it. You want to engage with it. So listen or watch TV shows or music in that language. Do Duolingo, do these apps to really learn the basics. But most importantly, try to speak it. Speak it with a native speaker to really get that practice. I've been speaking Mandarin with my parents again because of this reporting, and it's been really, really rewarding.
Awesome. Richard Sima, thanks so much for joining us to talk about this. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, let's head to California, where a young lifeguard is speaking out after the internet hailed him a hero. Video of this water rescue went viral. It shows the 16-year-old risking his own life to save a boy from some pounding waves in Santa Cruz. NBC News correspondent Kaylee Hartung has his reaction to all of the social media praise. Kaylee, good morning.
Hey there. This was the first rescue ever for 16-year-old Ryder Williams. He immediately sprang into action to meet the moment. And for the first time this morning, we are hearing his side of the story.
This morning, the teen lifeguard who drew nationwide attention for a heroic rescue captured on dramatic video earlier this week is speaking out. Ryder Williams saying in a statement, "This is my job and I love what I do," as the father of the boy he saved praises the teen's actions.
I mean, I cannot even express how much gratitude I have towards him.
16-year-old Williams giving more details about the incident off the coast of Santa Cruz, saying he ran into the ocean when he saw the child stumble in ankle-deep water. But due to the volatility of the water, he couldn't get the boy into a rescue tube or pull him out of the water because, quote, he was limp and the waves were pushing so hard. The bystander who captured that viral video telling NBC Bay Area the surf had been normal.
And then that just changed. And it changed in a heartbeat. And it caught a lot of people off guard.
Describing the moment when Williams reached the boy.
He had just like a gorilla grip, you know, that he wasn't going to let him get swept out any further.
Williams eventually getting him to shore with another lifeguard's help. The lifeguard's father telling The Guardian Williams knew the boy could die if he let him go, and that the teen said, quote, "I just was not going to let that happen." His father saying, "I almost started crying because how determined he was to save that boy's life makes me so proud." The video drawing widespread praise, including from the president, who invited Williams to the White House. But the lifeguard remaining humble, saying other lifeguards perform rescues just like this every day, and that he was just grateful to return the child safely to his family. That family also thankful.
He saved my child.
Sumit Rai, who was not on the beach, saying his son told him later that he'd been unconscious and drowning.
I'm just grateful that he's alive, and it's miraculous.
Joining the chorus of praise for that heroic moment.
I'm beyond grateful and forever grateful to Ryder.
Ryder is the son of a firefighter and a marine science researcher, plus he grew up in the community of Santa Cruz. So his dad says he was born to do this. He also said that despite being in the spotlight, Ryder's not on social media, so he wasn't even aware of the attention he was getting. He's already back to work, excited to return to normal life, and his junior year of high school pretty soon here. And in case you're wondering, Ryder is already eyeing a career in fire service to follow in his dad's footsteps. Back to you.
All right, Kaylee, thank you. Coming up, classic cars have always been in vogue for budding auto enthusiasts. But after the break, we're going to dig into the style shift that's got more young women opting for bigger and bulkier from a bygone era rather than the latest rides. We're going to explain next on Morning News Now. We're shifting gears to end the hour with a story about classic rides making a major comeback. The cars many of us grew up seeing in our favorite 90s movies aren't just making a return, they're becoming the ultimate status symbol. Restoring vintage Broncos, Jeeps, and Land Cruisers has become big business as a new wave of buyers, especially women, now in the driver's seat. NBC News correspondent Priscilla Thompson joins us now behind the wheel of a vintage ride. Priscilla, good morning.
Joe, good morning. Imagine rolling up to the beach in this ride. This may be hard to believe, but cars from the 90s and even the early 2000s are now considered classics. And you have Jeeps like this 1982 Scrambler that have become some of the most sought-after vehicles on the road, with a growing number of women driving demand. From Cher's iconic Jeep in Clueless,
should I write them a note?
To the old-school Ford Bronco.
Buckle up.
The boxy SUVs once left in the rear view are revving up a comeback.
For my 27th birthday, I bought myself a 1989 Land Cruiser for $6,500.
Fueled not by collectors.
Never did I ever think I was going to drive a vehicle where so many people would actually physically flag me down just so they could ask me what the heck this is.
But a growing number of women getting behind the wheel of these retro rides. Is that something that you're seeing?
Most definitely.
Dominic Pascalini is the showroom manager at Gateway Classic Cars in Houston. So a lot of people think of classic cars and they think of the muscle cars, but now it's sort of shifting to the boxy SUV. What's driving that?
It's really what people grew up with, right? People want to see the car that they always dreamed of having a kid. This is a 1974 Toyota Land Cruiser.
74?
Yeah, take a look inside.
Gotta tell you, this doesn't look very comfortable. And it doesn't look like it gets great gas mileage. What is the draw?
It's the way it makes you look, the way it makes you feel. Imagine pulling up to the beach on this thing. Everyone's going to want to talk to you.
For those who can afford to spend big, it's become the ultimate status symbol. From Alex Earl to Sydney Sweeney,
I could fix any car,
who restored this cherry red 1969 Bronco. Some spend tens of thousands on resto mods.
It's a 1972 chassis that's been completely rebuilt. It's beautiful. I mean, look at it.
Blending vintage style with modern comforts.
You get the cush luxury, the heated seats, the sunroof, but you have an older exterior feel.
But you don't need to spend big to get in the driver's seat.
Here's the truck.
19-year-old Gabriela Uresti paid $6,000 for this 1989 Ford Bronco.
And then here's me taking off the driver's side mirror.
So far, she spent around $3,000 fixing it up.
Okay, we did some work on the transmission, on the mufflers, new mirrors, new headlights.
And how much do you plan to spend on it in all?
Way too much.
What made you buy this car?
I like how big they are. I like that the whole top comes off and you can just have all that wind in your hair when you're driving.
How does it feel when you're behind the wheel?
I love it. I love it. It's a head turner for sure.
Back at Gateway, I decided to take the trend for a spin.
Just got to put the key in. Let it go. There we go.
All right. Sliding behind the wheel of this fully restored 1959 Chevrolet. One of the few classics here with an automatic transmission.
So just let go of the brake.
All right.
And we will slowly go.
There's like no backup camera in here.
Yep.
Just gotta use that rear view and look at it. Oh my God.
Old
Okay.
school.
I must say, it is very smooth. But I like the rumble.
Go ahead and give it a little gas. Don't be afraid.
There we go. My favorite part is definitely the wheel. It feels so old school.
It's nice to go back in the past once in a while and
That's the great thing about these classic cars. They allow us to do that.
That may be the real appeal. Not just the horsepower, but the history.
Like, this car has had a whole life before it got to me, and I think that they deserve to go on for thousands of more miles.
And Dominic says the trend has already found its youngest fan, his 3-year-old daughter, Ellie.
She has her own little toy pink Bronco that we drive around the block constantly.
So she's on the Bronco trend.
Yep, and she's avoiding curves.
Y'all, Ellie is living the dream. And I will tell you one tip for folks who might be looking to get in on this trend. Get a pre-purchase inspection, just like you would for any used car if you can. And as for the restoration and how much you should spend, Dominic says that there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's an art. And so it's all about what you want and what you're going to enjoy. Now, Joe, I did try to put the Jeep Scrambler on hold for you, but it has already sold. So I'm thinking the Toyota Land Cruiser could be you.
I will
can see
take
you rolling
it.
up to 30 rocking that.
I will take it. Just drive it up here.
I got
Priscilla.
you.
Just hop on in the car, road trip.
I'll send you the bill and we'll get it shipped.
Sounds good. Perfect. We'll charge you. Put it on the corporate card. All right. Priscilla Thompson, thanks so much. Appreciate it. It's going to do it for this hour. Morning News Now. The news continues right now.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.